Hello friends, welcome to Frontend Techies. In this video, we are going to discuss about how to make a put and delete request using Fetch API. In my previous videos, we have discussed about how to make a get and post request. So if you have not watched my previous video, I would highly recommend you to go and watch those videos so that you will have a clear understanding about how Fetch API works and how we can make a get and a post request using Fetch API. This video we are going to discuss about put and delete request. So without wasting time, let's get started. So for your reference, I have created a basic HTML with the head and body, and inside script tag I am going to handle my put and delete request. So for that I am going to handle the put request. So for that I am going to create a method const put data handler, and this is going to be an arrow function. Okay, and when this method will fire, so for that I'm going to create a button in my DOM, right? Let's say put data, and on click of this button I'm going to fire this event put data handler, right? Okay, now what will happen once we click on put data handler, we are going to manage the put request. Okay, so as you have already know, we have a method called fetch, right? And this is a global method so that we can use it anywhere in our application or anywhere in the code level, right? Now fetch method accepts some arguments. If you can see, it accepts a URL, right? So the first mandatory argument will be a URL, an endpoint, and the next argument will be an object, right? So what is an endpoint? So the endpoint is where we want to make a put request. So for that I have got a put request from JSON placeholder. So if you scroll down, you can see a fake API with the post and the ID is 1. So to this I'm going to make a put request, right? So this endpoint gives me this data: user ID, title, and body. Okay. So I'm going to make a copy of it. I'm just copying and pasting it here, right? So my endpoint is ready to make a put request now. Now let's talk about the next arguments. So the next arguments are the object key value pair. So the first key value pair will be the method. So what is method? Method allow you to set which HTTP method you want to use. So in this case, we are going to use a put HTTP method. So for that, we are going to write it put here. The method will be put, right? The next arguments will be the headers. What is headers? Headers, you need to set proper headers so that your API will get to know which type of data you are sending. In our case, we are going to send a JSON data, right? A JSON data. So the headers will be content type, then application/JSON. Okay, and this has to be in capital: content type application/JSON, right? The next compulsory arguments will be the body. So body is where we are going to add our data, right? So here body accepts a object, but as I already mentioned, body will not accept a JavaScript object directly. Okay, so what body will accept then? Body will accept a JSON like data, JSON like stringified data. So for that we have to convert this object to a JSON stringified data. So to do that, we can like JSON dot stringify. Then we can pass the object data inside JSON dot stringify, right? So let's say here I want to, for this request, I want to change the title. Okay, then what we are going to do, title, it has to be same as this key name title, right? And I am going to change it to this is a put request. Okay, so this is the data I want to put to this API. Okay, so this is fine. So we are now ready to make a put request to this endpoint. Okay, now this, once we make a put request, now fetch will return a promise. Okay, so this API will give us back a response, so that we can handle it through the .then block. Since fetch returns a promise, so that we have to handle it through .then. .then will have a callback method, right? And it will have access to the response data. Okay, now response data, what it is exactly? Response data contains a list. Response data is an object again, the raw object. So if you want to print response data, let's see what it is giving you. Response data, you can see response data. I'll go to my browser and hit the URL, put data. Yeah, you can see this is the data. Response data is an object again, right? Which has access to headers, status, types, and all, right? So this is response data. Now what we are going to do, this response data we have to convert it to JSON. So that how we can do response data dot JSON. Okay, then we have to return this one. Since this returns a promise, we have to return this one. This response data dot JSON again returns a promise. Okay, dot then, and here it accepts a callback again, data. Then if you console.log data, then we should be able to get back the response from the API. Okay, now let's check in the browser what exactly we are getting. I clear the console and go back to network and refresh the page and hit the button. It's pending and 200 you can see. Okay, and the payload, what we are passing, the payload we are passing it as the title, the body, the title we are passing. And what the response we are getting it back from the API, the response we are getting, this is a put request, this is a put request. So now the API is success. Okay, now this is not going to be changed because this is just a dummy API, so the data is not going to be changed, but you know the API is success and we made a success put request to this endpoint. Okay, if you can see, go to the headers, then you can see 200 put is success. Okay, so this is how we can handle a put request. And if you want to handle any errors, you can also handle it through this dot catch. It has access to dot catch method. You can also handle it dot catch. So I have already discussed about how you can handle the errors in fetch API in my previous videos. So if you want, you can just go and watch those videos, right? So this is all about the put method. Let's talk about the delete method now. So to talk about delete method, I'm going to create one more method, delete data handler, right? And this is again going to be a arrow function. Okay, and to handle that, I'm going to add a button in my DOM. Okay, delete data, and on click of this button, I'm going to fire this event. delete data handler, right? Okay. Now, what we are going to do inside delete data handler, we are going to handle the delete request using fetch API. Okay. The same has to be happen here. Fetch. We are going to use fetch, and now what will happen? Fetch will request an endpoint. The endpoint to the endpoint we are going to delete. What we are going to delete? Let's say I'm going to make a delete request to this endpoint. You can see delete, we have post/1. So I'm going to make a delete request to this endpoint again. Okay, sorry. Let's say we are going to copy this one and we are pasting it here, right? Now what will happen? Since we have passed some arguments, the second arguments while doing put method, in delete method also we have to pass the second arguments, right? But here we only have to pass the method. Okay, the delete method. Okay, delete method doesn't really require the headers and body. It only requires the method, the delete method. What type of method we are going to put? Okay, so here in this case we are going to request a delete method to this endpoint, right? Now again this method, this fetch method is going to return a promise. Okay, and that how we can handle the same like put method. Here also we have to handle it through dot then, and this will have access to response data in this callback method, and this is a raw response data. We have to convert it to JSON. To convert it to JSON, what we have to do? We have to do response data dot JSON, right? Now response data dot JSON is again going to return a promise to us. So if you are doing dot, then again response data is going to handle it through this callback, and here we get access to data. Then if you have console.log data, then we should be able to make a delete request to this endpoint, right? And if you have any potential errors, then you can handle it through .catch block. Okay, right. So now our code is ready and we made a button here. Let's try it in my browser. Okay, I go to the browser, we have a delete button, and let's check in the network. So if I click on delete, then pending, then we got status like 200. So the API is success now. So if you can see the headers, we have request method delete and the status code is 200, and the response we got it blank because we have deleted this one. This post we have deleted, so we didn't get back any response from the API. So this is how you can make a put and delete request. I hope you now have a clear understanding about how to make put and delete request using Fetch API. So if you really like this video, don't forget to subscribe to Frontend Techies, like and share it with your friends. I'll see you soon in the next one.